Livingston here. Today we're jumping into another fun-filled episode of The Twilight Zone. This time it's Season 3, Episode 15, A Quality of Mercy. Came out December 29th, 1961. The last episode we'll see from 1961. We're about to jump into 1962. But before we get started, let's jump into your comments to last week's episode, 5 Characters in Search of an Exit. B. Christopher Gordon 9562 says you really should do a reaction to the movie The Cube. I've actually seen The Cube, so usually when I've watched the movie I don't do another reaction to it unless I'm watching with somebody who hasn't seen it before. But I just might do that. It's not a bad movie. It's been a while since I've actually sat down and watched it, but it kind of favors this episode somewhat with the people trapped in a spot that they need to get out of. Alan Smith, 1989, says, this episode just amazed me when the series was screened in the UK in the 1970s. Never saw the ending coming at all. Most people guessed the twist today because of Toy Story. It holds up on repeat viewing, in my opinion, due to the sheer strength of the performances. Yeah, when you can make something very engaging and interesting with only taking place within one area, one place, one, scene in general, it takes a lot. Usually has a lot to do with the acting, a lot to do with the story, and if you can really engage you and keep you invested in the story, and this very much did so, and Twilight Zone has a few episodes like this. The Destroyer 0616 says, a good episode, but she shouldn't feel a sprained ankle and they shouldn't be struggling on each other's shoulders if they feel nothing but emotions. True, she made the comment that they don't feel anything, they don't have any kind of feeling whatsoever emotionally, physically, and then there were some things that kind of let it out. Maybe they kind of dropped the ball in terms of the acting, or maybe the script supervisor didn't point out the fact that, hey guys, you're toys, so you army guy, don't go ballistic just because you don't know what's going on. You're a toy, so you can't really go and wig out because you're trapped to where you're at. Or what you pointed out, the ballerina possibly spraining her ankle. True, those things might have been just overlooked and they didn't do a good job in those terms, but for the most part, very good episode. Richard Chase 2960 says, I like the techniques they did in this episode. They really worked with what they had to give a scary visual. Very true. I mean, being trapped in this very small place, don't know where you're at, don't know where you're going to end up, you don't know if you're going to be trapped there forever, or who knows what's going to happen, and it can be a very scary predicament when you're stuck somewhere and you have no idea why you're there, what you're doing there, and what the reasoning behind it, all of it is. But yeah, definitely a decent episode. David E123 says, seems like they should have heard the bell more frequently than they did, and I wonder what they thought when they saw a giant child's face looking at them from above. I actually thought the same thing too. I didn't really bring it up, but I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why didn't anybody look down into the hole when people, everybody was down there kind of going, what's going on? It would have been interesting to see like some kind of shadowed figure move across, and they could have added more layers to that. So yeah, interesting they didn't do that, but I'm also, I agree, the bell, when they were ringing the bell, they were doing it quite a bit when we seen the big wide shot at the very end of them basically being within like the toy drive where people were just dropping dolls in for Christmas, and she was ringing that bell quite a bit, and in the show I think they only had 2 or 3 times that the bell had rung in a 25-minute period. So yeah, good pointing that out, David. Mr. Rizzo 1961 says, a good William Wyndham episode. You should do some reactions of Rod Serling's Night Gallery with Serling only introduced each episode, and the Sixth Sense spinoff. Yeah, actually a few people have pointed out Night Gallery, so I really need to sit down and watch that. It's Rod Serling, probably the same sort of thing. Maybe the stories are different. I really don't know much about Night Gallery in general. I don't even know the length of it. I think this is the last season before we jump into season 4, and I believe those are longer episodes. So looking forward to that. But yeah, Night Gallery might be on the list at some point. I'm also doing the Outer Limits, but I haven't dove into them as much as I had last year, but I'm going to get more time here soon. I'm getting ready to move, so I'm in the process of doing that. So I try to stick with the Twilight Zone episodes. Those are my need to do every week, and right now I'm doing Tales from the Crypt, so check that out. I try to do those on Thursdays when I have time. Jonathan Stein says, one of my favorite episodes. While I'm not fond of the twist, I do love the existential dread of the small group being trapped in a small room with no memory of who they are and why they are there. Yeah, it's a very good trope. I enjoy that trope in movies and television where they're trying to figure out who the heck they are, what are they doing there. It's kind of like Saw. Saw was like that. Everybody's wondering why they're stuck where they're stuck, and then you have a Jigsaw kind of come out of the shadows with this toy and go, this is why you're here, and you need to do this in order to survive. But yeah, it's always fun to watch those sorts of stories. Mark as 24off7838. I've seen every episode at least once, but mostly several times. The only ones I've only seen once are the ones with Carol Burnett and the one with Sulu from Star Trek. I have not seen those yet, so now I'm interested to see what those are all about. I like pretty much every episode, but this one always stuck with me of the best. Maybe this doesn't make sense, but in some small way it reminds me of The Breakfast Club. A bunch of characters from completely different walks of life trying to figure out how to work together for a common goal. Very true. I really didn't see that similarity there when it came to The Breakfast Club, but you have the same amount of people stuck inside of a space. Instead of it being a library, it's now this... Well, I should say vice versa, since Twilight Zone came first. Instead of being stuck inside of a bin for a toy drive, they're all stuck inside of a library, and they have a principal that's consistently badgering them. So yeah, it does kind of favor that as well. I can kind of see the similarities, and maybe they got the idea from the Breakfast Club from this episode. Who knows? California Hummus says, I wonder what these dolls feel when they are on the outside. Yeah, they really didn't show what happened. As soon as he landed in the snow, boom, game over. They didn't see exactly what he felt, why he was feeling it, and if he was wondering what the hell all these giants were. But it's like he just turned or reverted back into a toy. And maybe that's what happens. As soon as they're dropped into the bin, they're out of sight of everybody. And that's probably where Toy Story might have gotten that. Toy Story was like, anytime a human looks at us, we can't move. We have to be still. That's kind of what they did here. As soon as they got into the real world, boom, they were toys. Maybe that's just a different rule in this one. They ended up becoming toys, and they just kind of lose consciousness, and when they're dropped back into a place where they can't be seen, boom, they're back alive. Who knows? I'm just making this up as I go. Holly Carpenter 9126 says, oh my god, your first guess was correct. The twist. Yeah, I mean, it's just what they kept saying in the very beginning of the episode. They would say things like, I can't feel, or they would talk about certain, like, not remembering certain things, and every one of them ended up being something that was a toy at one time. You had an army guy, you had a clown, you had a ballerina, all things that were probably popular toys back in the day, because they didn't really come out with Barbie or G.I. Joe until the 50s, so we were right there in the early days of it. And you can say, like, the ballerina was probably Barbie, but it's trademarked, so you can't use Barbie. So we went with a ballerina. But, yeah, I mean, it was definitely not hard to guess, but I still wasn't kind of there until I got closer to the end. I still said, like, it could have been aliens. It wasn't aliens, but yeah. Robert Schulenberger says, I love 5 characters in search of an exit. This is one of my absolute favorite Twilight Zone episodes. I like Murray Matheson, the one that played the clown. The next reaction of yours I'm looking forward to is Nothing in the Dark with Robert Redford in 2 weeks. Robert Redford. Well, I'm really looking forward to that because I'm a big fan of Robert Redford. I need to do more Robert Redford movies for the channel, too. I don't even think I have one on this channel. Let me know, comment below, what are some of your favorite Robert Redford movies? I don't know why I said his name that way. But anyways, let's jump into the episode and see what we're getting into.
The Twilight Zone.
August 6, 1945.
Short. Yards. 5-0.
That's right, still.
I like Army episodes.
That's the limit.
Did I just see who I thought I just saw?
You've wrecked some rice paddies. You've knocked down a grove of palm trees. There's something in your religion that says you're not supposed to send a shell into a cave.
Spock? It is Spock. I'm a big Leonard Nimoy fan. Loved him as Spock. Really, I watched the movies. I've seen some episodes of Star Trek, the original show. But I really need to sit down and watch that. I mean, the entirety, because I've only seen maybe a handful of shows that were relevant for what was going on in future series and shows.
I've got no big yen to run into anything anymore, not at this stage of the game.
You don't think they'd expect us to go at that frontally, do you?
Because we are the bottom of the barrel. I mean, when they can't move an enemy with the big stuff, that's when they call out the queen of battle, the ever-loving infantry. We got them ringed. According to all the poop, they're finished on Okinawa. Well, they just don't know when to quit. Holed up in that cave, beaten, sick, starved.
Just wait them out.
No one in there to tell them that the war's over for them. Those poor guys.
It's kind of sad. I mean, when you know the war is over and there's no way to win, just give up. I know you can't, but...
The men are what's left of a platoon of American infantry. But they've got one more battle to fight. August 1945, Philippine Islands. But in reality, it's high noon.
A Quality of Mercy. I just typically think war is meaningless. I mean, there are reasons to go to war. I thought World War II, there was a reason to go to war. You had a bad guy trying to take over the world, and everybody was like, nope, can't do that. But there's a lot of wars now that just seem... We shouldn't have it. There's just no sense in it. Should be more civilized and discuss it. We have these leaders putting us into wars. Like, you know, guys, most people don't want to do this.
Which one of you is Sergeant Coserano?
That'd be me.
I'm Lieutenant Cattell. I'm taking over the platoon.
Well, we're observing for a mortar company, Lieutenant.
He's clean. Or if he's seen battle. Typically the newbies are people that don't know what they're doing.
We've been trying to get them out of there for 2 days, nothing doing.
Your binoculars, please, Sergeant.
Thanks.
Looks like we'll have to do a little mopping up by ourselves.
What?
I think we'll have to go at it frontally. Just move right in there and wipe them out.
Well, that's stupid.
Begging the lieutenant's pardon, sir, but you've just inherited a pretty good outfit, but we're not that good. This is infantry, not kamikaze.
Your name is what, soldier? Are you accustomed to talking to an officer lying on your back?
A young buck who just thinks he knows it all. Power hungry.
Well, I'm not accustomed to talking to an officer anyway.
We'll start off with a little reminder. When you talk to an officer, you stand up on your 2 feet.
Definitely losing respect.
My job is to lead this platoon. I intend to lead it my way. When I tell you boys to jump, you'll jump. If I tell you to head toward that cave, with weapons port and bayonets fixed, that's exactly what you're going to be doing.
What are your orders, Lieutenant?
I think we'll have to move up and then go right in there and wipe them out.
Okay.
Well, chronologically, Lieutenant, the first thing you should do is take that gold bar off your helmet, or take the one off your collar and put it in your pocket. The Japs may be half beaten, half starved, but they're not dumb. We lost 3 platoon officers because they made slight motions of commands with their hands.
That's why you die first.
Maybe we'll have to do it eventually, but the war isn't going to end before dinner time. I say we sit on it the rest of the day and see what some 105s can do.
But it strikes me we could move in there and wipe them out inside of an hour. Getting close enough in to lob grenades and pulverize.
It's what we could do, but...
How long have you been out here? But you talk like it's a football game, and this is no football game, Lieutenant. You have to remember, Lieutenant, you haven't been shot at yet, and you haven't shot anybody either.
When it comes to killing Japanese, I think you'll find me a pretty efficient officer.
Until you actually do. Actually see the battle. Then you'll probably play a different tune.
That's a filthy piece, soldier. Clean weapons in this platoon because we're going to kill Japs. That's my job.
He's bloodthirsty. You don't think you'll want us to scalp him?
No sleep or no guts. Which is it? You tired of killing Japs? Is that it? Or have you just got no stomach for it?
Something's gonna happen to this guy.
We're about 24 months up on you. Now, we've seen enough dead men to last us for the rest of our lives. Now, you got a big yen to do some killing, but don't ask us to stand up and cheer.
Nobody should want to kill. That's my opinion on it. I mean, there are circumstances that would probably make you want to, but you should never go through on the act.
Coserano,
Yeah?
those flamethrowers arrive yet?
Yes, sir.
Those flamethrowers can do a lot of damage, can't they?
They can indeed, sir.
Booby trap?
Check with company about the time of the next mortar barrage, and we'll move in there.
Well, he took the stuff off of him. Can't tell that he's an officer.
I'm not your cup of tea, am I, Sergeant?
You're no one's cup of tea.
You got a little bit too much vinegar for me, Lieutenant. Look, we could bypass them. There aren't 20 Japs in there, and they're sick and half-starved.
But the Japs.
They're men, Lieutenant.
You'll forgive me an observation. If I had to size you up, I'd say you've either got battle fatigue or you're chicken.
Who you calling chicken, man?
Well, maybe neither, and maybe a little bit of both. I don't know, but the way I size you...
Go ahead, Sergeant. How do you size me up?
You're a pea-green shave-tail just fresh from some campus. I'm afraid you won't bag your limit.
Think that ought to do it?
You asked me, Lieutenant, you're gonna get it. And there aren't many choices left as to how to do it. It all boils down to that lousy cave full of sick...
You're a lousy soldier, Coserano. And that goes for the rest of these poor, sad, sensitive, sick boys you want me to...
Where's the twist in this? I have no clue. I mean, so far, no sci-fi or mystery going on here.
The miserable fact being there's always someone like you that sneaks in before they close the door to grind an axe before he gives that final order. How many men have to die before you're satisfied?
Offhand, I'd say all of them.
Okay.
No matter who they are or where they are, if they're the enemy, they get it.
Yep, that's, he has switched sides. I see the twist now. No, I'm on your side. Huh. Has he switched sides? That's interesting. Why'd you run, sir?
That was exceedingly brave, sir. To get at the Americans that way, and single-handedly.
Yep, you're brave.
Those are Americans in the cave?
We figure there are 20 or 30 of them, most of them wounded. Are you all right, sir?
Not really.
Who are you?
Who am I, sir? Are you all right, Lieutenant?
Not really. I was just American 2 minutes ago.
Where are we?
Corregidor, sir.
When?
May 4th, sir.
May 4th?
Can't be May.
Why not?
1942.
Hmm.
Is the lieutenant all right?
Not really.
You call me by a name.
Lieutenant Jamuri, sir. I called you Lieutenant Jamuri.
What?
No. No. What's going on? What happened?
You're in the Twilight Zone, dude.
Amari, are you sick? I require an answer, Lieutenant. I asked you if you were sick. Moving out shortly, and if you're too ill to move, we shall leave you here.
Man, what a bunch of mean people.
My name is not Yamori. I swear.
Uh-oh.
My name is not Yamori. My name is...
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't spill it. Keep it to yourself.
Forgive me, sir. I'm all right now.
You sure? We move out in 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Are we to take any prisoners, if any surrender?
If any do, I suppose we can.
Oh, good. I suppose we'll leave people alive.
When they ran inside, they were carrying each other. I don't think there are more than 20 or 30 men inside.
Just like before.
20 or 30 Americans.
What did you just say?
They are wounded in there, sir. Perhaps
Perhaps what?
we can let them surrender.
Exactly what your second command said to you.
Is that some sudden nugget of compassion that you have unearthed in your fever? The Japanese army does not bypass. The Japanese army attacks.
They're wounded and beaten.
You kill until you are ordered to stop killing.
No!
Hey, now. Well, see you guys later.
I will take care of you when we return.
What you do to those men in the cave? Will it shorten the war by a week, by a day, by an hour? May I ask the captain how many must die before he's satisfied?
I would say all of them.
Ooh.
First day of the war, last day of the war, we destroy them.
Well, this guy needs to switch spots with an American. Someone needs to teach him a lesson. And now we're back to where we were.
Anytime you say, Lieutenant.
Oh, I'm back, thank God.
Anytime you say, Lieutenant. Form lines for the duck shoot.
No, we will show compassion.
Casarano, something happened.
Orders, Lieutenant. They want us off the hill. The Air Force dropped a bomb in Japan this morning. A big one.
It's over.
They call it an atomic bomb. Give me that.
They figure the bomb will end the war in a couple of days.
All right, on your feet, everybody. Let's get ready to move out of here.
You with us, Lieutenant?
Yeah, just give me a minute.
Yeah, I'm with you.
What is it, something, Lieutenant?
You're never gonna believe what happened.
Yeah, something.
There'll be other caves, other wars, other human beings you can knock off.
Yeah, you got the Korean War in about 10 years, and Vietnam's 20 years.
God help us. I hope not.
It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice. To any group of soldiery, to any nation on the face of the earth, or, as in this case, to the Twilight Zone.
Not much Leonard Nimoy. Well, that was an enjoyable episode. Definitely liked it for sure. I didn't know where they were going with it until close to maybe 2/3 of the way into it. I'm not sure if they can get away with what they did in this episode in terms of what they did with the makeup and that actor. I don't think you can get away with being made into Japanese as an American or a white person. But yeah, it's other than that, the story itself is pretty good. It puts you in that spot or that place where you think, what would happen if things were reversed and I was in that tunnel, or I was the enemy fighting against my own who are stuck in that cave, and we had to go in and destroy them. I mean, you kind of see what's going on, where everybody's a person, everybody has value, and we shouldn't be going around trying to kill everybody. And of course, you have these wars that sometimes you can't control, and it's the superpowers and the people that are heads of the countries that have the power to stop or to start wars. Sometimes they have no choice but to get into them, depending on what the situation is. World War II, we didn't have much choice, so we had to jump in there after Japan dropped the bombs on Pearl Harbor. So yeah, it's sad how sometimes we're pulled into war, and sad as well when we are just thrusting ourselves into war because of financial means or for material or whatever the reason is. But yeah, I kind of like those stories where there is war, but the people who are fighting it decide, you know what? We're going to call a truce, like, say, in 1914, when the British and the Germans decided during World War I that we're not going to fight because it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So for about a day and a half to 2 days, they said, you know what? We're not going to fight. We're just going to enjoy, sing some Christmas carols, and maybe have some s'mores around the campfire, or whatever they did. I know it was cold during that time. They made a movie about it, too. I can't remember the name of the movie. But I like those sorts of stories. And this is kind of the same way, where you realize it's just not worth going in there to take down 20 guys who are starving and sick when the war is probably going to end in a couple days anyways. What's the sense in going in there and taking people's lives for no apparent reason when they're not really a threat to us anyways? And I kind of stick with that and totally understand why people would not want to fight or kill anymore after they spent 2 years doing it. So definitely enjoyed it, but let's jump into some trivia and see what it took to get this episode off the ground. Dean Stockwell had to drop out of The Purple Testament in 1960 due to scheduling conflicts. 2 years later, he starred in this episode. Both stories are about American soldiers who have supernatural visions during the Pacific War in 1945, and both have William Shakespeare quotes as titles. The title refers to a quote from William Shakespeare's play The Merchant of Venice. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven. This episode was one of 4 episodes to be remade for The Twilight Zone, the movie. Though only loosely remade in this instance, the relevant segment was directed by John Landis. Discussing that segment when it was about a guy who was treating people disgustingly, being very racist towards others, and then suddenly he's thrusted into Nazi Germany, as well as becoming a slave, I think, as well. And there were some other circumstances where he was jumping from one point to another, and started to understand what it took to be racist towards you. You know, like, he was put in the position where racism was being thrusted on him, and he was like, oh, seeing the error of his ways. But that one ended up having like not a happy ending for him, and he didn't learn his lesson. So I remember he learned his lesson, but the Twilight Zone was like, you know what, you're gonna suffer for the rest of your life regardless. This episode takes place on August 6, 1945 and May 4th, 1942. Dean Stockwell's Lieutenant Cattell was supernaturally placed in another person in another time. Stockwell's later series, Quantum Leap, was about a character who jumps into the lives of other people. Albert Salmi previously appeared in Execution and would later appear in Of Late I Think of Clifford-Dale, which we haven't watched that one yet. All of which involve time travel. Quality of Mercy is the only one in which his character is not portrayed as despicable. Dean Stockwell later played Martin Decker in The Twilight Zone, Room 2426, 1989. When Dean Stockwell as Lieutenant Yamari in 1942 runs back from the cave mouth after one of the American soldiers within the cave fires at him with a Thompson submachine gun, he goes toward a position held by a squad of his Japanese soldiers, one of whom gives him covering fire from a light machine gun. The covering fire drives the soldier back from the cave mouth. Unlike many military guns configured for the movie or TV use, the light machine gun fired by the Japanese soldier does not seem to be an American gun made to look Japanese. To all appearances, it actually is a former Japanese military Type 99 light machine gun that mostly likely saw combat service during World War II and was acquired by a studio prop house post-war. Not very many of these weapons survived into the post-war era. The vast majority are in the museums. Well, that's it for this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Continue on this voyage to episode 156 of The Twilight Zone. Until next time, see you later.